Like when I look at myself, so for instance, for me, a big thing is integrity, and for me, integrity means that I want my actions to align with my words and vice versa. And so for every stated belief that I have to attach at least one or two actions to it in order for it to be real and for it to be meaningful.
What's up, Lauren? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
So, do you like coffee? I actually don't even know.
I like coffee when it's really cold.
Okay.
Also on Sundays when I go to church.
All right.
So that's kind of where...
You came to the right place.
Yes. Put me through. What we getting?
So here's the deal. So I come to Cafe Corazon all the time.
Yes.
I spend a lot of time in office hours and meetings and things like that here. They always have a really fantastic seasonal menu.
Okay.
So every few months they introduce like all of these really special drinks that are in keeping with the time.
Okay.
So I just had the spicy tiramisu alfajor.
Okay.
Which was really, really good.
Spicy.
So I'm probably gonna do
like
either
spicy.
that. You want to try that?
Keep going.
Okay.
I just heard spicy.
Well, so the other one that I was looking at was the lavender dulce de leche because I haven't tried that yet.
Okay.
What do you
Lavender. Let's try it.
think? All right, let's do it.
Lavender.
So
Let's try it.
Two lavender
lavenders.
dulce de leche.
Hey, what's up, good people? Welcome to the Entrepreneur Show, a talk show that highlights up-and-coming local legends and founders who dare to take a chance on their vision, even when the odds are stacked against them. I'm your host, Ikwanga, and today, as usual, I bring a little place in Kansas City. I bring the most interesting KC people, KC entrepreneurs, KC leaders, investors, and today's guest is way more. When I mean a celebrity in Kansas City, she is, I think, one of the most connected lady in Kansas City by far. She has been featured by Kansas City Business Journal, Charlotte News, among many others. She is a founder of Innovate KC and the most engaging, the most happy person you will see in Kansas City. Please help me make welcome the one and only Lauren Conaway. How you doing, Lauren?
Hi, Z.
Welcome
How
to the
are
show.
you, my friend?
I'm doing good. It's great to have you on here.
Well, I'm really excited to be here. I gotta say, it's a little weird to hear people talk about you. I'm like, what? Where's he going with this? But no, that was fun for me.
Thank you for coming to the show. It's an honor. It's really an honor to have you on the show.
I mean, it's we actually get to like work together and see each other pretty regularly.
Yes,
It's always an honor with you.
It's your energy is just like whatever I say, I'm like, man, you make me feel so good. So
well, good. I'm a good cheerleader. That's really what I bring to the table.
thank you for what you do. But anyways, for those who do not know who Lauren Conaway is, give them a background of who Lauren is.
Well, so I think the reason that I'm sitting here today is because I'm founder and CEO of an organization called Innovate KC. We are a leadership community for women and individuals of marginalized gender experience. We've got over 6,000 members across the KC metro area and a little bit beyond, but we have a focus, through our work, we have a focus on inclusion and belonging and low barrier to entry. So we try to make it as easy as possible for women leaders to access championship, support, learning, all of those things that leaders need to thrive.
Yeah. Take us back a bit because I know you're from St. Louis.
Yeah, I am originally from St. Louis.
Talk to us about growing up in St. Louis. What was that like?
St. Louis is always going to have a little piece of my heart. It's where my history is.
Yes.
It's where my family is, and a lot of my friends when I was coming up. But very different from KC. When I first moved here, it was funny. I would tell people that I had just moved here from St. Louis, and I often, more often than you might think, I would have people say, "Oh, why?"
That's
There's like this inferiority complex thing that Kansas Cityans have, and I don't understand it because Kansas City is, I have fallen in love with the city. And so to hear people who just don't quite get it, I'm like, oh, let me tell you what makes Kansas City great. But growing up in St. Louis was, it was fun. It's a neat city. It's got a little bit more of an East Coast vibe, whereas Kansas City across the state has a little bit more of a West Coast vibe.
Okay.
But I liked St. Louis quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then I ended up here, moved here because my now husband, it was a good move because he was my boyfriend and now he's my husband. There was like a whole progression there.
Beautiful.
But I moved here to be with him. And then very slowly fell in love with this gorgeous city that we call home.
Became the most connected lady in Kansas.
I don't know about that. Like you said that, and people say things like that. I'm just like, oh, can we not?
3 or 4 or 5 people say that. I think that's a confirmation.
What is it? Like 1 is an original, 2 is a trend, 3 is I can't even remember what the saying is.
But this is the thing I say in terms of being connected. If you are someone who's connected to 5 to 10 people who are also connected, you are the most connected person.
I know a lot of people.
Exactly.
I'm not going to acknowledge that. I know a lot of people in Kansas City.
Yes. But take us back more to high school, right? Okay. Who was Lauren in high school? So you're talking about being a cheerleader. Talk to us about high school.
I was decidedly not a cheerleader when I was in high school. I was too fat. I was not a popular person at all.
Wow.
I was a big nerd.
Wow.
Really into so I was actually a professional singer at that time, and even a little bit after. But I most of my focus was on schoolwork and it was on music, and that was my whole thing. It's really interesting because people would be, I think, very surprised to know that Lauren Conaway. Well, I was Lauren Berger at the time, but I was really quiet. I was very timid. I was like all of these things that like I'm not anymore. I was a very, very different person, but huge nerd and big theater and choir geek.
How did that change? Like, what is like? It was like college just a switch, or when was it switch?
I think it started in college. And I'm going to go ahead and like get real and vulnerable, but after first of all, I didn't graduate college. Instead, I had a nervous breakdown. But, I had a lot of life circumstances that were actually really difficult. I went through a period of drug dependency, had to go through rehab, and I had to go through all of these things. And finally, I think as I went through copious amounts of therapy and figured out who I was and tried to learn how to re-engage with the world, I stopped caring so much about what people thought of me and what people expected of me. And it became much more about how can I create a fulfilling, meaningful, impactful life for myself. And that's kind of where I landed. And then from there, over the course of years, it's just been a gradual building of confidence and acceptance of who I am and, figuring out where I want to be and who I want to be and coming to terms with that. And I think that anybody who can successfully do that, you can get a little louder. And you become more forceful in how you express your opinions and things like that. So I would imagine that's kind of where
what are the steps? Like, how do you go from not being sure of who you are, being all thinking about what other people are thinking about you, to what is the steps? I know there's a bunch of kids out there today who are going through the same things.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was two things. Number one, I mentioned that copious amounts of therapy, and I don't even necessarily know that you have to go through like a structured therapeutic program. But what you do have to do is you have to get very self-aware, and you have to challenge yourself, and you have to hold yourself accountable to the behaviors that you might engage in that aren't super healthy, and you have to figure out how to break old patterns, and you have to do a lot of self-work, a lot of internal work to figure out not just who you are, but who do you want to be? Like when I look at myself, for instance, for me, a big thing is integrity, and for me, integrity means that I want my actions to align with my words and vice versa. And so for every stated belief that I have to attach at least 1 or 2 actions to it in order for it to be real and for it to be meaningful. But I came to that realization, and I came to that cognitive behavioral opportunity by sitting down and saying, I want to be seen as a person who has integrity. What does that mean for me? And how do I manifest that in my life so I'm not just saying it? Right. Yeah. So that's number one. Like you have to become very self-aware, and you have to become very able to call yourself out and congratulate yourself when you get it right. Yes. Like you always have to make sure that you're acknowledging the positives. But then the other piece of that is that community thing. Like how can you find people that support you and hold you accountable? And for me, that was my husband. I met him, and over the course of of years, he taught me how to love and how I wanted to be loved. And so from there, I had a safe place and I was able to, I had my person. And then because I had that safety and because I had that ability to explore myself with him, I was able to come to a much better understanding of who I am and who I want to be.
Not just know who you are, know who you want to be with, and have someone who is on your side to help you know your value.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to establish with those, like you surround yourself with good people who have your best interests at heart, but you also have to make sure that they know what the goal is.
Yes.
And so like, if I communicate to Aaron, my husband, like, hey, this is an area that I need to work on. Can you like kick me in the shin if you see me screwing up? Like, that's a conversation that you need to be ready and willing to have. Like allow people, even though it's uncomfortable, allow people to hold you accountable to what you say about what you want to do and who you want to be.
Man, I do want to go like a bit deeper.
Yeah.
Because I know that when it comes to owning your, like who you are, like having a vision of who you want to be, I feel like most kids, most young people are afraid of even thinking of who they want to be because they can't see how to get there. So they stop dreaming. What do you say to that?
Oh God, that breaks my heart. Like, don't stop believing, never stop dreaming. But the way that I approach pretty much every problem is, fact find and you ideate and you develop. But the first thing that I usually start with is the end goal, and so once you establish that, then you can kind of backtrack and you can retcon like the steps that it will take to get there. And so don't stop dreaming. Like that really does make me, like, even just hearing that sentence makes me sad. Please don't do that. But figure out what that dream really, really is, and then come up with the actionable steps that it's going to take for you to get there. So for instance, if you want to be more confident, like say that that's your goal. I want to be a really confident person. That's a great goal. But what exactly is it going to take to become more confident? And there are a lot of things, and it's going to change depending on who you are and, why do you want to become more confident? But say that, I want to become a public speaker and that's how I want to manifest that confidence. Okay, great. Start off by, writing your speeches. Practice them in front of people that you trust that aren't going to make you feel as nervous. Do it in front of people who are going to give you that feedback in a very safe place and in a constructive way, and then just keep on growing it. Okay, well now I just did this talk for 2 of my friends, but maybe next time I'll do it for a small group of 10 people that I don't know. And then you continually grow. But as with anything, it's like exercising a muscle.
Yes.
If you want to change your behavior, change who you are, change what your circumstance, you're going to have to figure out how to create the behavior that you want to see, but then replicate it. Keep on doing it until it becomes more and more comfortable. And so just as for instance, an example, with Innovator, I have had to be much more in front than I ever have throughout my career. It's been really, really weird. I in the past, historically, I had made a career out of being second in command, the woman behind the man, the one kind of pulling the levers and behind the curtain. And so to all of a sudden be out in front was really, really unnerving for me. Like, I'm an introvert by nature. People don't believe that, but it's true. And my husband, who's like, I'm gesturing at him right now because he's somewhere over there. But like, he would tell you that I would have like really, really difficult times, like the first few times I had to speak in public or that I had to represent Innovator as the face. But it gets easier as long as you keep doing it. You have to flex that muscle. You have to continually work it until it becomes more comfortable. And then you take it to the next level. It's just like working out. I swear.
It's
you practice and
muscle.
practice.
The more you do it, the more you get better at it.
And the more comfortable it gets. And then and I think that as with workouts, like once you hit that level of comfort, all right, what's next? What can I do that's going to push me and make me uncomfortable so that I can get better. And then that becomes comfortable. And then you keep on reaching these new like summits of activity.
I was actually talking with my last guest about how the young people, us, like now, want everything instant, right? Want everything to happen immediately. But hearing you talk about it's a gradual process of like you have this expectation, but like you have to work at it every single day to get to that.
Yeah.
For you, are you a person who plans something, or do you kind of take it as the day comes?
I think it kind of depends on my mood at any given moment. How much sleep have I gotten? Am I feeling positive? It kind of depends. But I would say I am a by the seat of my pants with prejudice kind of girl. Like I use my previous experience and my history to inform the decisions that I make in the day to day. But I also don't want to put too much thought about it, because I think that I'm a pretty high anxiety person, and I know that sometimes I just need to do something, like get it started, get it knocked out, because the longer I wait, the more intimidating it's going to seem, the more dangerous it's going to seem. And so once I remove that fear just by trucking through it and even doing it badly, like you're absolutely going to do things badly as you try, like when you're first starting and as you try to do things. Do it badly. Yeah. But do it. And each time you're going to get more comfortable.
Yeah. Speaking of doing things badly, each time I have an event coming up in April for this exact show. Yeah. Anytime I have an event coming up, I'm stressed about it. I'm like, I want to do it great. And then I'm like, what if it fails? You learn from what you didn't do right.
Absolutely. I fail every day. You learn multiple times a day. But that's what comes when you try new things. Like very, very few people, I'm sure there are prodigies out there, but very, very few people try something new and are just immediately good at it. Right? Yep. So you just have to understand, like, if you want to learn a new skill, or if you want to be do something differently, great. You're going to screw it up. I promise. But you're going to try it. And you're going to get better, and you're going to figure out what works for you. And then it's going to become second nature. But you have to go through that process of incremental change in order to see the big change at the end, right?
Did Innovate Her KC come before being a great networker, or did network come before Innovate Her KC?
They actually happened concurrently. So Innovate Her KC was formed while I was working with another entrepreneurial support organization. And I had to, because it was a community building organization, I had to start to view things through the community lens. And I had to be out in the community, building community. And so that's
so you always knew that's what you wanted to do?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that actually the community lens piece has really only come into my life over the course of the past, 10 years or so. And I just turned 40, so that's 30 years of not knowing. Well, thank you. But that's 30 years of me not knowing what the hell I'm doing. But for the past 10 years, I learned that I really, really I've always really liked people. And that's what it kind of came back to. I've always really, really liked people, enjoyed talking to people, learning new things about them. So that's been the through line of my life at any given time. That community piece started, I was working with Startland, and I was working with Adam Arredondo and Matthew Marcus, and they truly, truly taught me the power that community can have to be transformative in people, in like the individual's life, And once I learned that, all bets were off. That's where Innovator came from.
And I heard I'm going to keep referring to my previous guest, because he said that he started his company at age of 40. Yeah. And he was saying, no age is too late to start whatever it is you want to do.
Absolutely not.
Don't let the time be the constraint. Why did you start Innovate Her KC? What was the need you think needed to, like a problem needed to be solved?
So I was actually on a panel earlier today talking about this. my reasons were very personal. I historically, like throughout my career history, I was working in male-dominated industries, and I had a couple of most of my experience. I want to be very clear. Most of my experiences were very good. I had met a lot of really fantastic mentors and friends, and I learned a ton. But I had some experiences that were very gendered and not good. And some of them I can't talk about because I got an NDA, and some of them I just require some cocktails in me to really truly explore. But one of these
Where's the cocktail?
Yeah, one of these days you and I will go out for a drink or something, and I'll just be like, do I have some stories for you? But they were really negative experiences, and I was left feeling very frustrated and angry and alone and sad. And I would come home from work at the end of every night and just be emotionally wrecked. And so personally, like in my heart, I never wanted another woman to feel as isolated and sad and mad and all of these just very complicated emotions. I never wanted another woman to feel that way. And so that was where my personal stake in it came from. And then, as I started to work within community building organizations, Innovator was born because I looked around and I found myself in an environment where I was surrounded by cis straight white men. I love cis straight white men. I married one, and like I said, I've had a lot of really awesome mentors and friends, but Innovator was born out of a desire to see more, to see people who didn't look, think, and act like the primary demo or look like me. Or I wanted to bring people together so that we could strengthen each other. And I think that's where it came from.
What was the early days of Innovator like?
The early days of Innovator, it's so funny. Like people, this makes me laugh. People come up to me and they're like, so Innovator is such a great idea. Oh my God. And it's almost like they think I'm like super smart to have started Innovator. I'm like, no. Here's the thing. Innovator was not a conscious thought. It was not something that I intentionally started. It was me wanting to hang out with entrepreneurial women within the startup ecosystem here in Kansas City, very selfishly. I was like, I see you guys at events and we say hi, but we're not really connecting meaningfully. And I just want to hang out with some girls because I wasn't doing that in my day to day. I was hanging out with a bunch of dudes, and I was like, so the first Innovator meeting was actually just a quick pop up event. We all went and we got I think I invited 12 women from the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Kansas City ended up coming, and we all went and we got mani-pedis. And that was the start of Innovator.
Wow.
I brought champagne, I brought snacks, but I just really very selfishly wanted to talk to other women who might have similar experiences to mine. But people are like, it's such a great idea. And I'm like, yeah, there was no intentional thought behind Innovator at all. But what happened was, we went and we had a really great time. But over the course of weeks, I would get these emails and they would all start the same way. It was, hi, you don't know me, but I heard about what you were doing or what you did when you went and you got mani-pedis. Put me on the mailing list. And I'm like, there's no mailing list. What are you talking about? This isn't even a thing. Yeah. But it happened often enough. It happened probably about 5 or 6 times that I was like, all right, clearly there is a desire. There is a need for this. I can take that hit. I can put these on periodically. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
This is actually really good.
That's tasty.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice. Let's go.
Got a little bit of herby kick to it. It's so good.
So Laura, what does this space mean to Innovate KC?
One of our foundational values and ethics.
Yes.
We almost exclusively use women-owned business. We prioritize using innovator-owned business. So Cafe Corazon is owned by 3 individuals, and 2 of them are women who are members of Innovate Her KC.
Wow.
And so when I bring people out for coffee, I always try to find those innovator-owned places. So here, Cafe, Julep, Soiree, all of those. businesses are owned by innovators, and we try to use them as often as we can.
Okay, sweet. So this is partly woman-owned, which is very powerful
That's right.
as well.
2/3 woman-owned, and
also local.
Yep. Well, and interestingly, so Dulcinea, who's one of the co-owners, Dulcinea Herrera, I believe she was like a...
Wait, Dulcinea, this is Cafe Carlos. Dulcinea is part owner of this?
Dulcinea Herrera,
Yes,
yeah.
I know her, yeah.
What a dynamic woman. You know, she's an artist, she's a business owner, she's...
Her transition is just awesome to see, because I know her since college.
Yeah.
We're in the MKC together.
Yeah.
That was like way before all the fashion stuff and also the business. So like I see her doing, I'm like, yo.
So like watching her grow into
see
this
her making
really
her moves.
amazing dynamic individual. Like that's how I feel about Innovator KC members.
yes.
Like I love watching
Growth.
their journeys and their progression, and like I love that we get to be a small part of it.
What does a typical day look like?
Oh, there's no such thing.
There's no such thing as a typical
There's
day.
no such thing as a typical day. So I'm a super insomniac.
Okay.
So it means that I don't sleep very well, and I don't generally sleep more than a couple hours at a time.
Oh wow, okay.
And it's something that's happened, it's persisted for so long that my body has kind of become accustomed to it. But my sleep schedule is totally out of whack. I do a lot of work at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then my days, I do spend a lot of time during my days networking, meeting up with folks for coffee, talking about partnerships, hopping on Zooms. Because as a community builder, you have to be out in the community, talking to the community, getting to know them, understanding what's going on.
Yes.
So I do a lot of that. But you know, some days I'm super heavy on the spreadsheets and the accounting, and you know, who do I need to pay this month, and who sent us a check that needs a thank you, you know, more administrative stuff. And I actually really like that administrative stuff. Like I find it kind of soothing.
Yes.
And put things in order.
I see. Okay. See,
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I hate administrative stuff. Like I hate administrative stuff. Like I would rather just do
No, man.
behind the scenes,
I love
but not
making
administrative.
things organized and pretty. I love it.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I'm definitely coming back here, and you guys watching, come through the Cafe Corazon. Get you some coffee. Get you some.
This is the lavender dolce de leche.
The lavender dolce.
Yeah.
It kind of bougie, supreme. I like it. But thank you so much. We're gonna keep enjoying our coffee, and we'll have you guys just go do something else. We're gonna keep enjoying coffee.
Come on down to Cafe Corazon.
Come on down here. Yes, that's what we need to do. Pull up here. Let's make it happen.
Support women owned.
What would you say is coming so far, like one of the major impacts in the stories of people who've been through Innovate or KC who are part of it, that have really made you keep going in those days where you didn't want to do it?
Well, I will start by saying there are many, many, many days where I've just wanted to pull the covers over my head. Like entrepreneurship is hard.
True.
Being an entrepreneur, it's so hard. So I'll give you a for instance. This is the power of community. So Jackie Wynn, I don't know if you know her. She would actually be a fantastic interview, by the by. But she owns a coffee shop called Cafe.
Cafe.
But she moved here. Not everybody knows this, but she moved here right around the height of the pandemic. She was actually on Broadway in a musical, Miss Saigon, and then the pandemic hit, and of course, like all the actors and everybody was like, I don't even know what to do. Nobody's going to plays anymore. So she moved here to Kansas City, which is such a delightfully random like she'll even tell you, she was like, I don't know why Kansas City, it was just Kansas City. But she moved here and she decided that she wanted to start a Vietnamese coffee cart, but she didn't really know where to get started, but she knew that she needed money, so she put together a GoFundMe and she joined the Innovator community, and I think she posted about it at one point, and then all of a sudden there was this groundswell of support for her within the Innovator community, where people that she didn't know, members of Innovate Her KC, were posting her stuff online, sharing it with their friends. They were donating, they were giving the "you go girl" feedback, all of that fun stuff. And she ended up, not only did she end up closing her fundraising round early, but she overraised by I think around $2,000. It enabled her to get a backup generator for this food truck that she was all of a sudden able to buy. And so when she talks about her story, she talks about the Innovator community and how we kind of came together to help her get this project funded. So that's just an example.
Yes.
I mean, we have, I have a lot of stories. Like I you don't want me to do this, but I could do this like all day. I could talk about it. You know,
I kind of want to hear, because that's the inspirational stuff that kind of, keeps people wanting to be part of it.
Well, so Innovator, one of the things that kind of differentiates us in Kansas City is we're industry agnostic. So we don't people are like, oh, you're the entrepreneurial organization, and I'm like, yes, and because we serve women plus leaders. Okay. So we have members who are teachers and nonprofit managers and small business owners and entrepreneurs and creatives, and we do that very intentionally because we like to see the collaborations that come from relationships that these are women who probably would not have otherwise met if not through the Innovator community. And so we have a member, Dr. Melissa Halstead. She is a chemistry teacher in the urban core, one of our members, and she actually met another one of our members, Enam Haddad, who owned a startup company called FlexPlay. Okay. FlexPlay offered childcare to co-working spaces and at events. Okay. And so these two probably would not have otherwise met. And actually, they ultimately ended up collaborating on a STEM summer camp for middle schoolers, 6th to 8th graders, because one of them had the business expertise and one of them had the curriculum and pedagogy down, and they came together. So we see these kind of, what I like to call them serendipitous collisions. We see them happen all the time. You know, I mean, we have another one of our members. She was founding a nonprofit, and she attended one of our we have a Girls Guide to the Galaxy professional development series. We did one around nonprofit management, and she connected with someone who helped her complete her 501c3 application. Wow. Like we have stories like this that happen every day. Introversion versus extroversion. It's really interesting. So someone out there came up with a theory that introversion, it's not that we don't like people, because I think we both like people.
Yes.
But
sometimes I just like, no.
It's all about energy transfer, though. There are people who are extremely energized by people, and there are people who are exhausted by people. Yes. Like social interaction like this is draining. And I'm one of those. Like I might go to I've got pretty good stamina as far as like events and getting places and stuff like that. But I could go to 3 events in a day. But then I'm going to come home and I'm going to tell Aaron, like, hey, don't talk to me for 2 hours. Like I just can't. I have to decompress. I want to hang out with my pets and I want to do it in silence. I want to read, or I just want to mindlessly watch TV. I don't want to think. I don't want to engage. Like I need a rest. Yes. And that's how introversion manifests for me now.
I mean that is just a fact of it. It's like I remember my last roommate was like, I think I saw him at the gym. He was like, yo, Zeke, do you do the same thing where you get home and just go into your room and lock the door and just be there for like the whole day?
Yeah.
I'm like, I kind of do that because like sometimes I need that because like I'm out there extroverting. Yeah. And once like I'm like, I'm
it's too much.
Yeah.
It's so much.
So but I mean, because I see that, with you are like, you make people feel valued. You make people feel seen. You make people, whenever they see you, they receive a certain energy that, you are not just in for yourself. Because some people, you can see that. Like you can see that they're just in for themselves. No, you are actually in for other people and helping them get to where they want to be at.
Yeah. So Dr. Maya Angelou, she's got this very famous quote that I'm going to butcher. I'm just going to paraphrase it, but you've heard it. It's people will forget what you said. They will forget what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
And that's one of the credos that I try to live by. I might be exhausted, but I still I see you and I want to give you a hug and I want to hear how you're doing. And I like that about myself. Yes. I like that I care, like that self-awareness piece. Like I'm not a perfect person, but one thing that I really love to do is help people feel seen and help them feel welcomed and warm, because I know what it's like to not have that. Yes. And so how can I turn the tables and use my own personal experience and my own empathy? How can I use that as a tool to help me make change. And one of the ways I choose to make change is by like showing up. Like, I'm going to show up for you. I'm going to be here for you. I wasn't a cheerleader in high school or college, but I want to make sure that you know that someone is there for you.
Exactly.
Because you never know, like there could be someone out there that happens for them and it changes their trajectory.
True.
You never know. And I don't imagine that that happens every day, but the more that I do it, the greater the chance goes that it's going to happen.
Yes.
Right?
How did the selfie picture?
Oh God!
How did it start? Because I know you are very famous for that, and just like the way you promote other people genuinely, and not just promote.
I'm actually really, really glad that you asked that. Okay. Here's the deal. We're gonna have a whole conversation about this right now because this has taken on a life of its own.
Yes.
So how it started. Let me start at the beginning. So first things first, I have developed a reputation, like what Zeke is referring to. I've developed a reputation for being the selfie queen of Kansas City. And sometimes that's my fault, but often it's not. So what happens is, I spend a lot of time on Innovator KC social media. Social media is a really, really easy and cheap way for us to build social capital. It is a mechanism by which we can tell our members stories. Championship is one of our pillars. Like, how do we story tell to help our members create more impact out in the community? People can't support something if they don't know about it.
True.
Is essentially what it comes down to.
True.
So the selfie thing, what would happen is I would be curating our social media and I would be posting pictures, and I don't put myself on Innovator channels very often. Very rarely will you see my picture on Innovator KC's Instagram. And that is because Innovator is not about me. It's about that woman and that woman and that woman and that, it's about everybody else. It's about the community. And I never wanted it to be about me. But what would happen is I would go out to events and I would be taking pictures and I would be congregating groups of women and they would be like, well, don't you want to be in the picture? And my response was always, no, absolutely not. I definitely don't want to be in the picture. But they would insist. They'd be like, come on over. And I was like, fine, screw it. Okay. Click. And so I would do a really quick little selfie thing and I would pop it up on my personal socials because people like to see them. And I'm good at taking pictures. I enjoy it. Like, it's something that I've always enjoyed.
It's a craft now, an art.
Yeah, it really is.
Capture
And digital photography, I love it. You know, I mean, I took photography classes in high school. It's always been a creative outlet for me. But yeah, more often than not, when you see the selfies, it's because somebody was like, come be in the picture. And I was like, I don't want to argue. Fine. And now it's just become this whole thing where people will literally come up to me, Mayor Quentin Lucas, he'll see me now out and we kind of wave at each other, but he'll be like, is it time to take our selfie now? And I'm like, I guess if you say it is, sir, or people will be out. I just met Larry Lewis with what is it, Early Futures, Childhood Futures. I can't remember, but he's a really cool up and coming entrepreneur in the childcare world. And he's like, I really want to get in one of those selfies with you, Lauren. And I'm just like, all right. I feel super awkward about it.
But it's a thing of beauty, though. I think it's become a branded, even though it was not intended to be like a branded thing, but you have, taken, or you've owned it. It's your thing now. Anyone else person who's going to do that is going to be mimicking what you already started in a very natural way.
It feels super, this is where my imposter syndrome comes in. It feels super ego-y to be just plastering, because I'm always in the picture. So I'm plastering my face all over social media and I feel super awkward about it. But I'm just it makes people happy. They want to be in these selfie pictures and I'm just going to have to suck it up and do it. This is a thing that I just do now, I guess.
So let me ask you this, because with working with women even before you actually started Innovate Her KC, you were in a community service role kind of thing.
Yeah.
What were some pushbacks you had back in the days that had nothing to do with your intelligence and your work ethic, you would say?
Early on, I had several people tell me, well, there's just no real need for this. And it was generally coming from people who were not served by Innovator. Like, I mean, people who did not identify as women or gender minorities, like it was coming from dudes sometimes. And, you know, I would have people tell me like, women don't need safe spaces. And I'm like, you're wrong. But I received a lot, like there were a lot of people who didn't believe that there was a need for Innovator. And my answer to them was always, well, clearly we have struck a chord. We grow very fast. We don't recruit like actively. Like I never go out and like pay for ads or anything like that. Like it's just, we recruit by attraction.
Yes.
And the fact that we grow as quickly as we do, like we grow by 100 to 200 new members a month. And that's kind of on the low end. I think last month we grew by 323 members. And like, and that it's members who are inviting their friends and their coworkers and their family. And the reason that works and the reason that we do that is because there's a need. Like what we are doing resonates with people. You don't engage with things that you don't value. True. And we have super high engagement and we grow really fast. And so clearly, even if I didn't firmly believe that there was a need, we would be seeing that there's a need because there's so much response. Like what we're doing is resonating so much with so many people. And I'm very proud of that.
Exactly.
You know? But yeah, like it's funny. People ask me, they're like, what are you most proud of with Innovator? And I'm like, actually, it's the thing that I have the least to do with. Like I deal with the day-to-day operations, and to an extent I set the culture and I steward the group, but really it's our members who create the community. You know, again, they do the work. We just provide the platform, but they see a need for Innovator. Like it doesn't matter what I need or what I want. I'm just the face who's doing stuff. But what they want and what they need is what matters. And that's what they're responding to. Like, I need this in my life. I need this community. I need folks who are in my corner to amplify what I'm doing and support what I'm doing. Right. So yeah.
The question I'm gonna ask you, I don't know if there is a right answer to it, but is there something you noticed that worked that you honed into to make Innovate her what it is? Is it something you learned?
Yeah. So for me, and actually, I'm gonna give a plug to a friend of mine. So I went through a culture workshop with Frank Keck, is his name. And I highly recommend that you follow him on social media. We did a Startup Hustle series with him, Founder Fridays. Super cool guy, but way before Innovator, I went through a culture workshop with him. And one of the things that I got really intentional about with Innovator was our culture. Because when I sat down, when I realized that Innovator was going to be a thing beyond these little pop-up events and this little Facebook community that we had grown, when I saw the potential, when people started joining and people started getting excited about it, I had to sit down and I had to figure out what our differentiators were. Because there are any number of professional networking organizations for women out there. And I was like, well, there's no reason for us to exist if we're not different, if we're not doing something disruptive or innovative or better or, you know, what have you. And the cornerstones that I found out were that inclusion piece and the low barrier to entry piece. I was like, this is the hole, this is the gap in the market that we need to address. How do we democratize access to networking organizations like this? Because a lot of them come with a price tag or barriers of some kind. So how do we break through those? And so I was sitting down and I was figuring out what Innovator was all about. And I was like, well, the other thing is that culture piece. I want to have a culture of championship and winning. I think that as women, we tend to be pretty bad at talking about ourselves. And I think that we tend to be really, really bad at giving ourselves credit. And so I was like, I want to create a culture of winning. So how do I do that? And I figured out, again, it goes back to that integrity piece for like everything that I want this community to be, I have to be able to model that for our members, because often somebody can say, I want to do this, but they don't know what it looks like and they don't know what it's going to feel like. And so as the steward of this very large community, I have to show our members, and then they show, like, they learn it, and then they show the new members, and it becomes this like self-propelling, self-propagating culture. But that means if I want our members to be vulnerable and authentic with each other, then I have to do the same. And so, like, periodically I'll go into the IHKC community and I'll share a very personal story and be like, hey, I'm looking for feedback.
Yes.
Or if I want a culture of winning, I'm going to go into the IHKC community and be like, hey, look at this amazing innovator and what she did. She did a fabulous job, because that's what I want to see from our members. I have to be the one to do it first. And then once I show our members what that can look like, then they start to do it. Exactly. And then the others around, and the effect is exponential.
And in the same line, I want to ask you this question, because we're getting towards the end of the show. What is one piece of advice that you've gotten that has really helped you through your time in Innovate HRKC, or through just life in general?
So I love that question, but I think I'm going to go in a direction that you're probably not going to expect, given the conversation we've had up till now. But one of the best pieces of advice that I got in my professional career was create value. And so people, I'm going to try to give a couple of examples, but, like, for instance, when I first got involved with the entrepreneurial community here in Kansas City, I did not start by, like, asking for the coffees and asking for stuff. I started volunteering at events. Like, I would volunteer for 1 Million Cups, and I would volunteer for Startland events and KC SourceLink events. And I would do that because I wanted to provide value before I started asking, right? You know, another question that I get frequently is, you know, Lauren, how have you cultivated trust with all of these historically disenfranchised communities that you work with? And it's like, I show up, like I work the registration tables, and I make the connections for people. And in doing that, I mean, it's very, very selfishly, you know, I'm doing for others, but at the same time, I am also building that trust and building those relationships. Like, you don't walk into a relationship with an automatic trust and an automatic history. And so find ways to provide that value without asking for anything. Build those relationships, and then from there you can deepen the relationships, strengthen the relationships. So yeah, like, and I mean, you could look at that a different way, like, provide value. Okay, innovator, find the gaps. What is not being addressed in our community right now? What can I do that will be so valuable that I will become necessary in the space that I want to be in? And so it's just a matter of sitting down and figuring out what is not being done, what needs to be done, and how can I add to that process, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you 100%, because you can't just take. Like, for me, even with the show that I do, I started doing this in 2019. Yeah, and it was just as a student, and I really want to.
I remember when you first started out. You know that, right?
Yeah,
we've been on quite a journey together.
It's been 4 years. Yeah, you know? And it's like just what you're saying. It was just to add value. I didn't start to get something from it. I was more curious about the entrepreneurial community in Kansas City. Yeah, and that opened the whole door of, like, people that really love what I do and want to be able to help out.
Exactly right.
And you give value, and it comes back to you.
You give value, you build trust, it comes back to you. Like, that's exactly right. You know, I don't go into it. I really try not to think about the favor bank. Like, I'm going to do this for you, and it's very transactional, and then you're going to do this for me. Like, I don't think about it that way, but I do think about it in a way that means that, I guess maybe it's like karmic
universe.
Yeah, like, if I put good out there, if I do good work and I do good things and I provide value, then eventually that's going to come back to me, and I have to believe that. Yes. I absolutely believe that.
Yes. And that's the right way to go. It doesn't have to be from one person, it might be from someone random. Like, because you never know. Yeah. It's never, I'm doing this for you so that tomorrow night I'll call you back so you can do something for me. It's well, and
I mean, we could even take, so, like, right now I'm doing this with you, and you asked me to do it, and I'm happy to do it. Well, honestly, this is fun for me, but
thank you for coming.
But at some point, like, somebody might see this, and it might help them, inspire them. They might reach out to me. They might be able to help me, or they might be able to help you. And so it's just a very, you become a part of the tapestry. Like, I feel so woo-woo saying this, but you become like a part of the tapestry of support and community.
Exactly. Yeah.
By building into it.
Giving value.
Yeah.
Man, we've come towards the end of the show. I have two last questions. One is, what are some resources you've used, either books, podcasts, organizations you've utilized in the past to help you with what you do?
Well, first things first, I definitely think people should listen to the Startup Hustle podcast.
Let's go.
That's right. Join the hustle.
Join the hustle.
If you're an entrepreneur or you're interested in entrepreneurship, it's a really, I know I'm biased, but it's a really fantastic podcast. I don't read a lot of like leadership books or listen to a lot of leadership podcasts, because usually when I'm in my downtime, I kind of need to chill.
Can we talk about competition though? Because I feel like there's a lot of competition in Kansas City where there should be collaborations.
We can talk about that. That's really interesting. I actually love that you asked that, because when I first started Innovator and like knew that it was going to be a thing, people would come up to me constantly and they would, I'm not going to name the competitor, but they would come up and be like, well, how are you different from competitor? And I'm just like, well, first things first, I have like 10 answers to that question. But the fact of the matter is we're not extremely different from them, but we have a different vibe. We have a different ethos. We do some of the same things, but we're a different community. Yes. We have a different feel. And that is going to have to be enough. But people would try, I think they were expecting me to like badmouth this organization. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. No. For me, with Innovator, I feel like we are supplementary to other organizations and groups that are out there. Like, if we do good work and we're the largest part of the funnel, with low barrier to entry, we don't have a lot of like costs associated with membership. We don't ask a lot of our members, but we're the biggest part of the funnel. Yes. And then it becomes my job and Innovator's job to point our members to the resources that are going to work for them. And so I went around, I did like a listening tour with other women-led and women-focused organizations in Kansas City. And I would be like, hey, Central Exchange, NABO, IAW, just so you know, I'm not here to take the butts from your seats. I am here to help propel people toward you. Yeah. But we're going to have to work together on it. We're the biggest part of the funnel, but we're going to create a pipeline of success for women. I don't want to cooperate, or I don't want to compete with you. I want to cooperate with you. And I would say it like that.
Yes. Yes.
And so the competition thing, like, there is enough space for us all to play.
To coexist. It's true.
And we just have to figure out ways to do it together in meaningful and really useful ways.
Yes. And I'm with you on that. It's like, there's a competition. Like, there's always competitors, but for me, it's not really about competing, because I'm not really here to compete. Like, I'm really here to add value. Like, I'm here to see how I can better serve my community and be the best value to whoever is the next person next to me. Right. As opposed to saying, oh, I'm this, I'm that. I'm never, no. Yeah. I really want to be.
I've never heard you be like that about it. That's why you and I, we get each other.
Thank you. It's like, it's about value. But back to the question about resources you utilize. Yes. Like podcast, you always say Startup Hustle, books. So
I read. I love books, but usually when I'm reading or like consuming content, it's because I want to relax. But I've definitely gone through some courses and training. So like REI with Stephen E. Smith and Dr. Rodney Smith, like that was a really amazing training course. Casey SourceLink, they put out a lot of really, really interesting programming around leadership and entrepreneurship that I know that I availed myself of pretty early on. It's a lot of stuff. I don't know that I could point to any one particular thing that was like, this transformed my life and made me the leader that I am today. It's consuming a lot of content and hearing a lot of perspectives and talking to a lot of thought leaders about the best way forward.
What does your organization need now? What do you need?
Capital. Yes. That's my short answer. So we are to the point now where in order for us to scale and in order for us to deepen our impact beyond what we're already doing, we need access to capital right now. I need to be able to hire people that I can hold accountable to processes and culture, so that it's not just me. Like right now, Innovator KC, I am largely a solo practitioner. I get help from my leadership team, but I am the only person doing this full time. Yeah. And so in order to do more, like Lauren's at capacity. And so if we're going to do more, then we need to bring on more people. So that's what we're looking to do.
30 seconds. What's your elevator pitch for Innovate Her? If someone investor is watching, which they are watching right now.
If you want to connect with an extremely diverse, extremely engaged group of women leaders, folks who are decision makers within their organizations, allow us to help you activate your internal leadership, allow us to help connect you with these communities and support us. And we will make sure that this is a mutually beneficial relationship for sure. We've got a lot of cool stuff that we can do.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, you heard it right. Pull up and make it happen. How can people connect with Innovate Her and you if they want to be able to reach out?
It is super easy. One of the things about being really on social, I'm very easy to reach. So my email is lauren@innovateherkc.com. We have a website, innovateherkc.com. We're pretty active on social media. I don't really care about Twitter. It's just a personal thing. I'm like,
it's a lot.
But you can find us on Instagram. Okay. You can find us on LinkedIn, Innovate Her KC. We're on Facebook. Definitely, if you identify as a woman or a gender minority and you would like to become a part of the Innovator community, find us on Facebook, Innovate Her, all one word, and then KC. We would certainly love to have you, but I'm pretty findable.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Lauren, for coming on the show.
You.
It's just an honor. It's been fun just being able to get to know more about it. I didn't know you were a singer back in high school. I didn't know you were introverted back in high school.
I'm certainly not anymore.
But it was just a cool, fun conversation. And I'm thank you again for all you do in Kansas. Thank you for being able to have this invitation coming through. And for those of you who are watching at home, thank you for tuning to another City Entrepreneur Show. And as you know what to do, subscribe, share, and let people know. And it's your host, Zeke Wanganga. You know what to do. Never give up, keep pushing, stay fired up, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye for now.
To see how our city's entrepreneurs do what they do, tune in to City Entrepreneur on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Episodes drop every Thursday.